Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you my best tips and tools to inspire you to create beautiful home decor on a budget. Today I'm excited to bring my first in my patriotic Americana DIYs for this year. I have 5 brand new projects for you today and I really hope you enjoy them. With all that being said, let's get crafting. For DIY number 1, we're going to make this 4th of July cutting board using a cutting board from a thrift store, some wood shims, this fabric from Dollar Tree, and some Scrabble letters and ribbon. So I found this red with white stripe fabric in the coastal living, the beach decor kind of area of Dollar Tree, and I thought it'd be great for patriotic DIYs. So I just applied a bunch of Mod Podge to my cutting board, and then I'm pressing down my fabric, getting it to adhere to the Mod Podge and making sure the lines are straight. Once I have it where I want it, I am going to do another layer of Mod Podge over the top. And then once we have that completely covered, we're just going to set that aside until it is completely dried. Next, taking 3 of these wood shims from the hardware store, I am trimming them so that I can make the number 4. One, it was thin enough I could cut with my heavy-duty scissors. The other one, I had to cut it with my saw. But I'm just making 3 pieces into the number 4. Once I have those cut to the size that I want, I'm going to give them all a nice coat of Waverly chalk paint in the color Ocean. Once the Mod Podged fabric is completely dry, I am taking my little sander. Because this is fabric, I'm using a pretty low grit number. I believe this is like 80. And you need something strong and gritty to be able to go through the fabric and the Mod Podge. But I'm getting that all off of the edges of the cutting board. It looks really nice. Then I'm going to glue down these Scrabble letters to spell the word July. And then we'll glue down our 3 shims into the shape of the number 4. Lastly, I'm going to take 3 different ribbons. These are wired ribbons, and I'm going to cut 2 pieces of each one, dovetail the ends, and then we're going to stack them together and tie them into a messy bow. Now, that burlap ribbon is from Dollar Tree. These other 2, I'm pretty sure, are from Hobby Lobby. Now that we have all the ribbons cut the lengths that we want, we're going to stack them here. You can see each piece coming up is a little bit smaller than the one under it. Once we have them stacked, we'll take a piece of jute twine across the middle, and as we pull this knot, we're going to scrunch our ribbons together into a messy bow. Then our last step is just to hot glue our bow onto our cutting board, and this project is done. I'll also say if you can't find the red and white striped fabric, you can always do this project with scrapbook paper instead. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time today, welcome. I'm so glad that you found me. I hope that you're inspired and you'll consider sticking around by hitting that subscribe button. I hope everyone will tap the bell, check your notifications, and make sure that they're set to all, so YouTube should let you know whenever I upload a new video or go live here on my channel. For DIY number 2, we're going to use 3 wooden arrows from Dollar Tree and turn them into firecrackers. I was also very excited to find this flag banner at Dollar Tree in the patriotic section. It is paper, and we're going to use that blue paper with the white stars. So this smaller one had holes and had a hanger. We're going to come up with something to cover up those holes towards the end of the project. The 2 taller arrows just had stapled twine, so I just cut those off. Now, like I said, this was in the patriotic decor section this year, and I loved that it was paper because this is pretty affordable, and it was a lot easier than running out and trying to find blue and white star paper. So the hard part of this was that they're triangles, and I am going to need to use 2 pieces to cover this one arrow. So you can see I'm just looking at the different pieces and seeing how I can turn them and lay them to get them to cover that arrow. I'm going to do these 3 arrows all differently. This one tall arrow, though, I am going to do solid blue with white stars. So I'm going to have to glue 2 of them on kind of like this. But let's get some Mod Podge down and we'll get that first triangle laid down onto our Mod Podge, and then we'll let that dry completely. Once I get all the air bubbles out, I am going to go ahead and do a light layer of Mod Podge over the top as well, and then we will let that dry. Now for the second tall arrow, I'm going to paint it red, but I do want the blue with white stars on the top part of the arrow. So I'm just kind of cutting a piece that's going to fit up there. Before we glue that on though, we are going to paint with our Waverly chalk paint in the bright red color called Crimson. We're going to do the whole lower portion of this arrow on the front and on the side edges. And we're going to paint our entire small arrow with the crimson red as well. And now that the paint on this arrow is dry, we're going to do Mod Podge just on the top part of the arrow and Mod Podge that blue paper with the white stars down, just like we did on the other tall arrow. We'll put the paper in place, press it down, and put some more Mod Podge on top and let it dry. Once all our Mod Podge paper is dry, we'll take our little sander again and going around the edges, we will trim all that extra paper that was hanging over the edges. Coming back to our second tall arrow, I'm going to take some painter's tape. I'm going to tape off where the paper is so we don't get paint on there. And then I'm just going to mark out 3 big areas on the red part of the arrow that we're going to paint with white. Next, taking one of these little chalkboard tags from Dollar Tree, I'm actually going to flip it over to the back and we're going to paint this entire backside white as well. looking through my stash, I found a patriotic colored ribbon. I'm just going to add this down the side of the small red arrow and gonna cover up the 2 hanging holes with that. We're just gonna wrap it around to the back and attach it with some hot glue. Now that all 3 of my arrows are decorated, I'm going to just figure out how to lay them and attach them together. At first I started putting the 2 big ones the same height, and then I thought maybe one of them should be a little bit taller, so it's kind of like 3 fireworks and they're just kind of offset from each other. So once I had those laying out, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the 2 long arrows and attach the small one to the front. Now coming back to our little tag, I chose to write the word boom on here. You could do snap, crackle, pop. You can do happy Independence Day. You could write whatever you want on the little tag. I'm just using a Sharpie marker and doing kind of some print and then going back over it to make it nice and bold. Once I get that done, I am going to do little stitch mark lines all the way around our little tag just to frame it out. Next, I'm going to glue the strings for the tag to the back of that middle arrow, so they're kind of hanging, and then we'll put a little bit of hot glue on the back of the tag as well so it stays in place. The last thing I want to add to this front arrow are some of these cut out stars. I can't remember if these are from Dollar Tree. They might have been ordered from Temu, but you could use star stickers. You could use whatever you wanted. I just thought these would look pretty with the cutout in the middle. I did not paint them white, but you of course could do that if you want. The last thing I'm going to do here is take a strand of some white beads from Hobby Lobby and tying knots on either end. We're just going to glue those knots to the back of the 2 tall arrows. There are some really cute decor right now at Dollar Tree as well that have red, white, and blue beads. You could use those instead of white beads if you so choose. If you love budget home decor DIY videos like this, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and leaving 1 or 2 comments. That lets YouTube know that people are enjoying my content and they'll show it to more and more viewers. For DIY number 3, we're going to make what I'm calling a Freedom Planter Box using 2 wood crates from Dollar Tree, 2 of these flat wooden spoons, some fabric, a little dowel, and let's start by painting our 2 crates and our 2 flat wooden spoons with our white Waverly chalk paint. Of course, you could paint your crates to make your planter box whatever color you'd like. I'm painting everything on the outside except for one of the short ends, as those are going to be wood glued to each other anyway. I did go down a little ways on the inside so that you would see white and not the unfinished wood. Once all the painting is done, like I said, I'm going to take my wood glue and I'm just going to glue those 2 unpainted short ends together and let that set aside to dry. Then coming to my spoons, there is a back side. It's a little flatter, and that's what I'm going to use a combination of wood glue and hot glue to glue inside the crates. Now here I put glue everywhere, not realizing that a lot of that's going to show through the hole. So once I got it in place, I realized I needed to clean that out. So the second spoon, I am going to put the wood glue and hot glue inside the crate and then just place the spoon down. This helped save some mess. Now that I had my spoons in place, I'm going to take my little dowel and fit it into the holes on the handles and hot glue that in place just with a little dot of hot glue under each side. Now I had this fabric pennant banner in my stash. What I want to do is I want to make a mini one. So I just kind of cut out a triangle with a little bit of a rectangle space at the top and use that as my pattern to cut out 7 total of these little banners. I'm going to make a banner that says freedom, so I need one triangle here for each letter. Before I write the letters on though, I'm going to take a piece of jute twine and I'm going to hot glue each of these triangles to my twine to make my little banner. Now that I have my little banner made, I'm going to take my Sharpie again and I'm just going to freehand the letters FREEDOM on my little flags here. You could do Liberty, you could do America, lots of choices. Just feel free to use whichever patriotic word speaks to you. And once that's done, I'm going to attach it to the top of my handles here with a little dot of hot glue. And then we're going to wrap the excess of the twine around the little end of the dowel that is sticking out past the spoon here. You'll see I'm going to wrap it and then we'll secure it with hot glue. Next, I'm going to take some hot glue and put down in the bottom of each crate a piece of floral foam from Dollar Tree. You can see this has been used before. I'm reusing it. And then we're going to take some chipboard. I wanted to make 3 little flags for this planter box, so I took some chipboard and I cut 3 rectangles that were 3 inches by 2 inches. And then I'm going to use some more of this striped fabric from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to wrap this with Mod Podge on the front and the back of my chipboard rectangle. Okay, so there I'm just kind of wrapping it like a little sandwich, I guess, and pressing that fabric into the glue, maybe doing a little bit more on top as needed. And just like in DIY number 1, we're going to let that dry completely for all 3 of our rectangles. Then once that's dry, we can trim the excess fabric from the 3 sides of our rectangle, and we'll do that for all 3 of our little flag rectangles. Then I had another fabric from Dollar Tree, this blue plaid, and I just cut a small rectangle to be the stars area on the flag, and I'm going to glue one to the front and the back of each of my 3 small flags. Once I get the blue rectangles onto my flags, the last thing I'm going to do is on the back side of my flag, I'm going to run some hot glue down it and just attach a piece of a skewer to make the stand for each of the flags. Coming back to the planter box now, we're going to put some more hot glue on top of the floral foam and just put a little bit of this floral moss to cover up the bright green there of the floral foam. Then the last thing is just to stick in our 3 little flags that we made. And I'm also going to add in some blue and white florals that I had in my stash from Dollar Tree. And then this project will be finished. I love how cute and Americana this is. You definitely can use just whatever you have in your stash. I think my favorite parts of this project are the little triangle flag banner that says freedom and the little flags that I made. For DIY number 4, we're going to make a patriotic beaded wall hanging using this sign from Dollar Tree that has the beads and the 3 squares. We're going to use some patriotic window clings from Dollar Tree and this wood shiplap scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. So I did try to peel off as much as I could of the design that was on the front of these squares. Once I had done that, I'm going to take the squares and trace them on the back of my wood shiplap scrapbook paper so that we can cut these 3 pieces out and then be able to Mod Podge them onto our 3 squares. I love this idea because you can literally take this same beaded sign from Dollar Tree and make it for any theme. You could do it for Christmas, do the word joy, you could do USA. We're just going to put this wood shiplap paper on here, and then we're going to choose 3 of the smaller window cling images from this sheet of window clings, and we're going to attach those down onto the 3 squares. Before we do that though, of course, we're going to use our sander and clean up the scrapbook paper hanging over the edge. Even though you traced around this square, when you cut it out, it doesn't always happen perfectly. Now these are window clings, so the reason I didn't do Mod Podge on the top of the scrapbook paper yet is because we're gonna need that to attach the window cling. So try to do a thin layer. You don't want a bunch of white Mod Podge stuck behind your window cling. Press it down into the Mod Podge, and then you're going to do the same thing for squares 2 and 3. Then once our window clings are in place, we will do a light layer of Mod Podge over the entire front of the square with the scrapbook paper and the window cling. And that's it to finish up this simple project. Again, you can take this idea, this one surface from Dollar Tree, and change it up how you like. For a complete list of all the tools and supplies I've used in today's projects, please open up the description box below the title of this video. There you'll find, like I said, a list for each of the 5 projects of the tools and supplies I used. You'll also find links to my link tree that has my Magnolia Design Co. website, my Amazon storefront, and other appropriate links. For DIY number 5, we're going to make another set of firecrackers, but this time we're going to use 3 of these cylinder boxes from Dollar Tree, some wood stars, some nautical rope, some painter's tape, and some paint. So first of all, I'm taking 6 of these little wood stars. I believe these are from a pack of lots of different sizes, maybe from Walmart or the hobby store. Regardless, you can find stars, and I'm just going to paint all 6 of these white. You can see I put down some painter's tape and stuck the stars to the sticky side to hold them in place. Now, We're going to use 3 of these cylinders. This first one I'm showing you is going to be our medium size. We're just going to use the cylinder exactly how it is. I'm putting a strip of painter's tape all the way down, then just another small piece to be a spacer, and then we'll put another piece, use the spacer again until we get our stripes pretty much evenly distributed around our cylinder. Now, I do have to kind of eyeball the last couple stripes because there's not quite enough to put 4 solid stripes all the way around. You'll see what I mean here. So I got the spacer, my strip, and then when I put the spacer down again, you'll notice that it's not going to be enough space for a full strip and the spacer. So I'm going to put the stripe down, and then I'm going to peel one of the stripes up. See how it's too close right there? And I'm just going to move it a tiny bit. So I'm going to put it between the other 2. It's just going to make those 2 a tiny bit smaller. So we're going to do this for all 3 of our cylinders, but we're making 3 different sizes of firecrackers. So this one, like I said, we're going to use 1 box exactly how it is. We're going to do the stripes on the bottom portion, and then we're going to paint the lid with ocean blue. Now this is my smallest firecracker. What I've done is I've removed the lid. I'm not using that. I'm just going to use the bottom portion of this box. So I've flipped it over, and now the bottom is going to be the top. I'm kind of measuring out about what the lid depth would be or height, and I'm taping that off with some tape because I'm just going to tape above my painter's tape to be the blue area. I think that makes sense. If it doesn't, it will when you see the finished firecrackers. So this is the bottom of the box, but it's going to look just like the top because we're going to paint it with Ocean Waverly chalk paint. And I will say these cylinder boxes had kind of a shiny texture to them. So with the blue especially, I did do 2 layers. Now this is the lid from that one that we just painted. I'm actually trimming the little insert part so that it is flush because we're just going to use this extra, 2 inches maybe, to add height to our 3rd cylinder box. This is what's going to give us our 3 different heights of these firecrackers. So I'm going to glue this extra to the bottom of my 3rd firecracker. That's the lid from the 2nd box. And you can see I had to kind of tear it down inside a little bit to get it nice and flush. And we're going to go ahead and paint this lid for our 3rd box with the Waverly Ocean Blue again. Now we're going to do the same thing with the tape to get our stripes on our tallest of the 3 firecrackers. This is the one that we added. We glued that extra piece to the bottom. And this is our smallest firecracker that we're just using the bottom piece. Now you're going to see me put painter's tape over the blue that I painted so that I have a nice crisp line for adding my stripes. Don't make the mistake I did. Be sure to Mod Podge the blue paint before you put painter's tape. When I pull this tape off, it's going to pull most of my blue paint off, and I'm going to have to repaint it. So Mod Podge the blue before you put painter's tape on it. Here now I'm just using the same method to get my stripes of painter's tape on the lower portion of my firecracker, and again we're going to paint those stripes white. Now you can see my 3 different sizes of firecrackers. On my smallest one, I'm going to glue 1 white star. On this tallest one, I'm going to glue 3. And then on the medium one, I'm going to glue 2. Then to make the little fuse for the tops of my firecrackers, this nautical rope lately at Dollar Tree is a little thin, so I decided to cut 3 pieces and glue them all together, and then glue that to the top for the fuse. I really liked how this turned out. It made it sturdier, and I did have to maybe reinforce at the bottom there with a little bit of hot glue, but I thought that it matched well with the thickness of these cylinder boxes. So here's our shelf sitter firecrackers made out of the cylinder boxes from Dollar Tree. Thanks again so much for joining me today. Please let me know in the comments which of these projects was your favorite, and we'll see you next time. Take care.